4. And we are live. So good evening, good afternoon, good morning to wherever you are in the world watching this episode. And I thank you for being here. My name is Miriam Cunha, if you haven't met me yet. And we're talking from Kelowna in the Okanagan Valley, British Columbia, Canada. And tonight we have a very special guest, Gary Fong, and he's going to share his knowledge about the power of Shungite. Am I saying it right?
Yeah.
Shungite.
Yep.
Hi, Gary. How are you doing?
Good.
So thank you for coming and for sharing your knowledge and willing to be here tonight. I was really excited about that all week.
Oh, awesome.
So how should we start? Maybe talk a little bit about your background and how did you get into this?
Well, everything's completely by random. If you look on my Wikipedia, it talks about, you know, my business life and how random everything was. In fact, there was a book that did really well in 2009, I think, and it was called The Accidental Millionaire. And it was all about my complete random choices of like what business to go into and things like that. And they all turned into extremely successful businesses. So that's my cat. And in the book I talk.
Maybe he found a box of Shanghai.
Well, he did. And what happened was he just collapsed the tent that my kids built. Yeah, but anyway, my choices were extremely random. I got a degree in pharmacology from UC Santa Barbara, and yet I decided to become a wedding photographer. Nobody understood that.
Wow.
Yeah, I understood that, but you know, it was interesting because it was such a hard program to get into. There was only 13 students that graduated in the country with a Bachelor of Science degree in pharmacology, and all of my friends were going to the top medical schools, you know, Stanford, Harvard, Johns Hopkins. And they said in the 12-year history that they had the pharmacology program, they've had 100% acceptance into accredited US medical schools, which is why I went, because my parents wanted me to be a doctor. And then just around the time that I was supposed to graduate and everything, I decided, well, it wasn't really a decision. These choices just kind of come automatically and they seem completely random, but looking back, they all make sense. I decided to become a wedding photographer, and nobody believed that was a really good thing.
And it was just like that. You just, I want to be a wedding photographer, specifically.
No, it was actually synchronicity. I was not real happy, being in university, because I was more of a creative person anyway, but more importantly, I was a musician. And I knew I wouldn't make any money as a musician. So it was just be a doctor and hopefully have fun with music on the side. What wound up happening was I really dreaded going to medical school, and I was talking to my girlfriend in college about this man that I knew who was an actor, and he was a martial artist, and he was a singer. And I was into all of those things because he was a guitarist. I was a guitarist. He sang, I sang. He was into acting. I did, all the high school, very interested in performing arts then. And as I was talking to this girl, I said, that guy, he didn't care about if he was going to be successful or make money. All he cared about is he just wanted to do what he really wanted to do. And I said, I wonder what he's doing now. And I turned to Life magazine, and then it said, double page spread, no one shoots weddings, wedding photography like Rocky Gunn. And I was like, okay, there must be a hidden camera around here somewhere. How did that happen? And she said, if there was a hidden camera, it wouldn't be able to tell you to say, wonder what he's doing now, right? It looked just like it was straight from a movie. So I took that as a sign. And I actually knew the man. My mother worked with him when he was a struggling guitarist in in a little restaurant playing, but he was an excellent singer. In fact, he wound up having a song in the country western charts, and he wound up opening for Glenn Campbell. He was actually a Chinese guy as a country western singer, which I thought was just, so interesting. So I found out that he was a wedding photographer, and I just felt like that was too much of a coincidence. So I got in contact with him, and he let me come out to a wedding. And I wasn't a photographer at the time, but he allowed me to take a couple photographs. And then he declared that I would become the next biggest photographer in the world. I thought he was crazy.
Big statement.
It was a big statement because he was at the time, the most famous wedding photographer in the world. So, and then he said that I was going to be, which, didn't make any sense, but he would give all these little prophetic things like, don't fall in love with fame. You'll speak in front of a crowd of 1,500 at the big convention. Next year, it might be 500. So, don't really care about that kind of thing. He always gave me advice that would really make sense 10 years later. But true to form, I became a very famous photographer. And so that was among the things that just made me think, you know what, I'm not going to make any plans. I'm absolutely going to be like a leaf blowing in the wind and let whatever may come surface in front of me and almost be completely random. And so my choices in business were extremely random. It was like, be a wedding photographer. And then once I was a very established, very successful wedding photographer, I decided to open a photo lab, which was, kind of a horrible choice because we were losing an incredible amount of money until the 11th hour. We literally couldn't pay payroll. And then our technology guy invented something, and then we were able to sell that company for $35 million. So, and then my Lightsphere, that was, if you want to see something really interesting, just Google my name, Prince Charles and Donald Trump, and you'll see a video of Prince Charles and Donald Trump walking into this house to meet some dignitaries, and Prince Charles stops and he picks up my invention, the Gary Fong Lightsphere, and hands it across to security agents. Now that doesn't happen when the president is in a room. If there's anything that blocks his way, they stop the president, they clear the room, and then they take the thing out. They don't allow the prince to pick it up. So there's been a lot of, and those are my personal friends who know me.
When was that?
Oh, that was last year. That was last year. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. It was quite interesting. So I've had a lot of really interesting, just kind of things.
Coincidences.
Yeah. Coincidences. Even January 16 of this year, I was driving by Cactus Club on Harvey and Banks. And I was stopped at the stoplight, and I looked over and I saw that all the windows were boarded up and with plywood. And I thought, I wonder what happened to Cactus Club. So I looked down at my phone and looked for news about Cactus Club, and there was no news. And then the light turned green, and I looked over again, and the windows were back on. So everything was normal. It was
a vision.
I've had a number of visions. And
you time travel.
Well, that's interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because before this broadcast started, I started talking about the CIA document, which I covered really well in my YouTube channel, and I'm going to continue covering because it does talk about the Army militarizing remote viewing and time travel. It's and so, those who think that this is kind of like a thing, well, we wind up finding that not only the United States Army, but Russians and China all have their special groups that literally have psychics in it. And they use that. Well, what's neat about this document is it shows exactly how the process works. And of all crazy thing that, that kind of remote viewing, or that ability to sense what's happening all around us without using our eyes and our ears actually comes from it's actually strongly related to Shungite. So
yeah, I want to know that connection. I had an experience in life that was very clear that it was me in the future talking to me in the past through a drawing. Because I made this drawing when I was a teenager,
Hmm.
And I was in Brazil. I had no idea I was going to come to Canada or to the Okanagan. And I draw this lake with the Ogopogo coming out and the pyramids. And I only found out what the drawing was when I was here in the year that I had written in the drawing. So all of this is, it's, well, when you have this kind of proofs to
So
yourself.
you wrote the year. It was a year into the future, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So just to go into that, because there's a lot of people that are actually curious as to how this works. And now, even the things that I'm going to say about Shungite, people will just go, I don't even publicize the testimonials that I get from people because I'm going to sound too weird, you know? But the thing that happens with remote viewing is that there's actually, you know, as we know, there's the pineal gland, and the pineal gland actually has photoreceptors. Now, why would this little tiny walnut-shaped thing in between our left and right hemispheres have photoreceptors where light doesn't shine? Well, that's actually because it's able to see universal light energy in a different vibration.
Absolutely.
I've always said that our five senses exist to only protect our three-dimensional physical body. So we see a boulder coming at us, we get out of the way. We hear gunshots, we duck behind a dumpster. We smell smoke, we know there's fire in the building. So those five senses really only protect our three-dimensional body. To think that knowledge comes from our ears and our eyes is extremely limited because our ears can only hear between 20 and 20,000 hertz. Our eyes can only see between, we can't see infrared and it can't see ultraviolet. Well, there's much more higher frequency vibrational energy than that. These things only kind of exist to protect our physical body. And as I'm sure you know, our physical body is nothing but electricity.
Yes. I've seen that inside with the eye inside. It's
The pineal gland,
amazing.
yeah,
Yes,
and they call
yes.
it the third eye.
Hmm.
There's a lot of there's a lot of different studies about what it actually does, and it's medically described. But the thing that happens in synchronicity, and being able to see things like magazines or being able to draw a picture that to you means nothing at the time. But in the future, it becomes like, oh my gosh, I connected the dots and I knew back then what was going to happen. That once you honor that ability and don't dismiss it, then you'll actually start to harness it. And it's a very interesting thing. I give this really nice example. Let's just say, for example, Abraham Lincoln was in the room with me, and I take a call, and it's someone from Russia, okay? And I'm talking to them, and he says, God, this is so weird. You have this like lit piece of glass, and it's glowing in your face, and you're talking into it, and what must he think, right? And I say, oh no, actually, it's quite easy. When there's a call, I just press the green button, and I can talk to anybody in the world. And now to Abraham Lincoln, back then, you would sound like a crazy person, right?
That's amazing that you mentioned that about the cell phone, because I had a dream in the 80s that I was talking on a phone, that I could see the person and the person could see me and we could
In the
video
80s,
talk. Yeah,
right?
it didn't
Yeah.
exist. And I was like, holy, that was so cool. And now we're all using it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing that's interesting about the ability to, see in what they call the fourth and fifth dimensions. What's really neat about it is if I teach Abraham Lincoln how to use the phone, I say, you can press this button and you can call Alaska, or you can call Fred, who's sitting right over there. Let's just try it. And then he goes, what's the green button? Okay, that's call. And then hello. And he can hear someone there. It'll only take him 3 phone calls to understand, holy smokes, what else does this thing do? He won't question it anymore. The problem with us, and when we're seeing glimpses of the future or synchronicity, we immediately dismiss it. We think, oh, I'm
Mhm.
hearing voices, or I'm thinking crazy thoughts, or I'm a conspiracy theorist, or all of these things that
Labels.
labels, yeah, that we're taught to believe because it's almost like well, we're not supposed to rely on the pineal gland. That makes us too powerful. right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So that, but once you understand that, wow, that's a really interesting inkling that I got, you start to be able to kind of like go, that's really weird. Like, I don't know if you're on my Facebook back when the last big earthquake happened in Los Angeles, but I said, everybody in Los Angeles is going to be a big earthquake tomorrow. Make sure you have your supplies. And then there was one. And then people
Mm.
said, how did you know that? I said, oh, lucky guess. I was just, kind of playing around. And then I said, but there will be an aftershock that's bigger than the original quake. And it's going to be, and there will be no aftershocks after that. And so I said that, and people were like going, okay, well, how did you figure that out? And once you went there, you were able to see, oh, there's Mirror Lake Air Force Base in, I think, Paris, California. They put in a massive electromagnet down there in 1960 or something like that. You can see
Mm.
all of these things. Like, when I was at Cactus Club and it was boarded up, I thought, so I journal a lot, and I journaled it. It's like, okay, right now I just saw boarded up windows at Cactus Club, and I pulled over into the parking lot, and I thought, I kind of want to step into this realm and kind of see what's going on. Parking lot was empty. All the other stores were completely boarded up, and I looked back toward Harvey, and there were no cars. And I think, my God, they're going to shut down civilization. It was just the weirdest thing.
Mm.
Um, but again, once you start to answer the phone, then you'll be able to use the features that your mobile device offers. If I call you and you never call me back, you never even answer the phone, well, I'm never going to call again. So the universe is kind of like that. It finds the people who go, what was that? Here's a really good example. Isaac,
Yes.
Isaac Newton. Okay, so he's sitting underneath a tree, and an apple falls on his head. And most of us would go, stupid apple, stupid tree, but Isaac Newton was interesting enough to say, why did that apple fall on my head at that moment? What is the universe trying to tell me? This is part of the fable of how he discovered gravity. Then, of course, he goes on to become the father of Newtonian mechanics and actually physics. Action, reaction, cause and effect, analytical, calculating speed, force equals mass times acceleration. All of those things came from Newton, but that's all stuff that you can measure. What he could not describe was the immeasurable part. Oh, why did the apple fall on my head? And that's actually, it's called synchronicity. Carl Jung was the one who described synchronicity as saying that acausal, oddly described circumstances that have acausal effects. It's I think you know what synchronicity is, but they don't make sense until later. You go, I just opened Life magazine and there's this man, and I was just talking about him. Like, what must that mean? It's the same thing like the apple falling on Isaac Newton's head. It's like, hello, wake up. It's like the iPhone calling you. And once you start to answer it, then you just go, wait, what else does this baby do? Oh, there's another call. Wait, Biden's going to win the election, or whatever, right?
Mhm.
So you wind up getting a ton of information through
The
that.
thing is that the like the people who control the system in the world right now, they know how to use that, but they don't want everybody to know.
They really
Because,
don't know how to use it, and that's the part that's just so delightful about this.
oh,
No, they absolutely do not know how to use it because you're aware that the world changed from the age of Pisces to Aquarius. Okay, so
yes.
that happened. You were just talking about the Mayan calendar and how both the Aztec and the Mayan calendars ended on December 21, 2012. And people committed suicide that day. They thought because these calendars all said that that was the last day on the
No,
calendar.
no, that's the thing. The calendar didn't end because it doesn't. It's a continuous.
Well, what it was the Pisces calendar. That was the
Mhm.
end of the age of Pisces. And the age of Pisces, if you look back from, say the year roughly 0 to 2012, the precession of the spinning of the Earth, the Earth spins extremely fast, one rotation per day, right? But the top of it kind of rotates like that. Like if you spin a top, you know, the top goes like that, right? One circle of the Earth going around that precession of each of the different constellations is about 24,000 years. So if you're sitting on the North Pole and you're looking straight up into the heavens, you'll be aimed at one of the constellations. Constellations are just, you know, they're markers in the universe. And from 0 to 2012, we're in the age of Pisces. Age of Pisces was what they call the age of monotheism, but it was really an age where the world was in control of what we call the patriarch. It was the male, in fact, the white male. So all the popes in the Vatican have been, you know, males. All of the presidents of the United States, even the vice presidents of the United States, you know, were all male. As we get into 2012, you start to see that there's a very different kind of an energy. And we entered into what's called the age of Aquarius. The age of Aquarius, when you're at the North Pole and you're looking straight up, it's an extremely densely packed with star energy. There's superclusters, there's supernovas, there's nebulas, there's all kinds of stars. It's like looking down on Manhattan. Whereas in the age of Pisces, if you were, you know, to look up from the North Pole, you'd see a vast emptiness. And so there was no star guidance. There was nothing to feed the pineal gland. And as human beings, we're very much yearning in search of useful information. When there was no energy coming, you know, from above, then we followed gurus like Tony Robbins or Jerry Falwell, or, you know, we would follow people who we thought had more information or more access to information than we did. As we go into Aquarius, our own internal library starts to kick on. And we just go, God, that's weird. That doesn't make sense. Why does that not make sense? Or, you know, that doesn't feel right. So we become a lot more intuitive. Interestingly enough, we're on the cusp of Pisces kind of being washed out in the wave. So just think of sand crabs just trying to hang on and then when
Yeah,
the
we're
wave,
like we're interlacing, like it's the end and the beginning all at the same time, and that's why everything looks so chaotic.
well, yeah. Well, what's chaotic is it's the dissolution of the age of Pisces, and Pisces was all about cause and effect. You know, if I go to university, I'll get a good job, and therefore I'll, you know, do better. It was all about action and reaction. It was all about labels. If I am an investment banker, then I'm going to be driving a Ferrari or have a closet full of Tom Ford suits. And there were different labels that we would just say about ourselves, and therefore people would fill in the blanks because they didn't have time to just think of anything if it wasn't in a box. So everything in Pisces was in containers. You know, Europe, you went from Spain to Italy, and you'd have to, you know, exchange your lira for what were they, Spanish francs? Anyway,
Franks.
or yeah.
I forgot
It's
the
not
name,
important, but anyway, yeah, it's been a while. It's all euros now. But my point is as we got around to 2012, all of the borders were actually dissolving, and so all of the labels that we used to rely on in Pisces were no longer reliable. I have a university degree, and therefore I should earn, you know, at least $45,000 a year. And then you find out that you're a server at Earl's or whatever, you know, with an $80,000 debt. So all of those things that used to be action, reaction, cause and effect, they now no longer work. Well, what winds up happening is because there's so much star density above us in the age of Aquarius, we get access to a lot more universal light energy. And the universal light energy is where all the knowledge comes from. You can learn, it's really interesting, but I used to say, if you meditate, you can download so much information, you could learn Russian in a day. I mean, that's how fast things come down. And people who are, they're able to, what the CIA calls hemisync, they wind up having a really hard time explaining things because They have so much information at their grasp. And so it comes out as like, wait, slow down. You've got, and you're probably hearing that from me right now. It's the same thing with anybody who has the ability to download all of this information that's coming from the vast, stars above.
I had an experience when studying the Mayan calendar, the symbols, just by looking at those symbols, you start downloading information.
Right.
And I was meditating, and out of a sudden there's this light I'm seeing inside, and a woman figure, and then I'm downloading speed light information. And then I asked, well, I don't understand this. And then this woman says, don't worry, it's downloaded. When you need it, it will be there. I was like, oh, okay.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So the way downloading works is it's like, and you can see it and you can feel it. There's a thing called quaking that happens. It's a physical reaction when you're receiving a lot of light energy. But the downloading is actually something that was mimicked in software. What happens is you're actually downloading an app. The information that's coming in, you have no idea what it is. And you can recognize when you're getting a download. What happened to me was my left ear used to go up and down on its own, and it felt really good. And my daughter, she was like going, Dad, why is your ear doing that? And, then it would go around to the back of my head and things like that. But it felt really good. And I knew that, there was stuff, there was a lot of vibrational energy. And then you wind up not knowing why you needed that information until you double click the app. So, you just kind of go, what is the name of that song? And then, it's this, right?
You need the interface, right? And
you need but also to trust the interface, to know that, that's what a download is. And so what is a download and why does it work? And that's why I love that it's all explained in the CIA document. So have you heard of the Akashic Records?
Yes.
Okay. So the Akashic Records are when people tell you that you're able to download all of the awareness that has ever existed in all the, so if Marilyn Monroe stubbed her toe coming out of the bathtub, you'd be able to actually access that. And that's called remote viewing. And the thing is, the Army knows about it, and it talks about how that works. Do you know how it works? The Akashic Records?
I don't know how to explain it. Like, I know how it works, but I don't know how to explain it. So maybe you can explain it better.
Oh, the Army explains it.
I would just say the connection, and then you download, but it's so not tangible on this physical reality that is difficult to explain.
The funny thing is it is tangible, and it is easy to explain, even in five-dimensional awareness. So, and the Army describes it really well. It describes holographic viewing. So what's a hologram? Well, you look at your credit card and there's a little, on the Visa, there's a little bird, and you look at it and it's, or whatever, a hologram. It's the ability to see three dimensions on a two-dimensional plane. And so it's the ability to see another dimension when you're not currently able to see those dimensions with the tools that you have. Does that make sense?
And like a stereogram too.
Exactly. Well, like even right now. You
just gotta like kind of sync your eyes, and then you're seeing something, another dimension inside the stereogram.
That is a stereogram, and holograms have that quality, but they're actually simpler than that. Like right now, I'm sitting in a chair. You can see behind me, there's my cat. Right? But you're looking at a two-dimensional flat plane. You're basically just looking at a monitor. But behind me, you can see that there's depth behind me. That's your ability to perceive the third dimension, because two dimensions is height and width. The third dimension is depth. Okay. So your ability to see into the fourth, fifth, and even sixth dimension is described in this document. And it's so interesting. So let me explain how that works, because it's so fun. And I will get to Shungite and how I discovered all its
oh, that's a beautiful piece you have there.
Oh yeah, look at this one. That's
beautiful.
This is called a deep mine Shungite, and I'm really armored up in Shungite. I mean, I have type 2s on both wrists.
Tattoos? Like
yes.
Shungite tattoos?
No, type 2.
Type 2s. Okay, okay.
Yeah, and then I wear an elite. And then I have these two deep.
I'm wearing one too here somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know where it is. Here.
Nice. Yeah. They wind up, and I'll explain how that works. But what happens in the ability to see the future, or like Abraham Lincoln, pick up a phone call and hear it from the future, it's called holographic viewing. And this is how that works. So say that I'm in an extremely still tub of water, okay? And I throw a pebble, doesn't matter where from, but I just throw a pebble and it drops, and then it starts to send out waves in a spherical pattern, right? Let's just say, for example, wham, we flash freeze that entire pool of water, and we cut out just 1 inch out of a swimming pool size, pool of water. Did you know that from that little cube of frozen water, you can tell where the pebble is at the moment that you froze the pool? Now, how is that? Well, it's because when the pebble hits the water, waves come at you. And those waves are shaped either like that, which means the waves are coming at you, or they're shaped like this, which means they're coming from you and going outward. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, the space between the waves means how far it is from the pebble. So if it just dropped, then the waves are very close together, but as time goes on, they spread out. So that is called a disturbance. Anything that disturbs a continuum creates vibrational energy.
Is that the same way that they actually can tell how old a tree is by the different layers of?
No, that's completely different. In a tree, you're seeing layers because there's the different seasons. Every year, the tree has to
creates
make
a different.
Yeah, as the bark is growing outwards, well, it's really cold now, so the bark has to do this, and then now it's spring and the bark can accelerate, and so you can tell how many years there are. I mean, that is sort of one way, but that doesn't really relate to this. If you drop a pebble and you freeze it, you know where the pebble is, and you know exactly how far away it is by the waves that are coming at you. In the same way like that a bat can echolocate. A bat can't see, has very, very poor vision, flies around at night, but is able to see what I look like by spitting out a chirp and hearing the vibrations come back. They echo, and he can make out my face, and if I've got a knife or whatever, because of that ability to send out a wave and then to perceive the waves coming in. That's what happens in the Akashic records. If I clap my hands like that, the sound goes way up into the universe. It never goes away. Never goes away. An event always creates vibrational energy, and it goes out. And as it's going out, it's also sending waves that are coming back. That's how we're able to perceive it. And it's that simple. So once you're able to perceive the hologram,
I'm just laughing because I was looking at your screen, and when you said a wave and comes back, your screen started creating waves.
Oh, did it? Oh, yeah.
Now it's gone. But it was just that second when you said that.
Well, yeah, that's not a zoom effect. That's not a special effect I'm able to do. But so once we're able to do that, and this is the very interesting thing, because I've been on a lot of podcasts, and I've been, interviewed by medical doctors. I was on the other side of midnight, and they had panelists from around the globe and asking me questions about 5G and microwave radiation and, the impact on cells and why that all happens. And of course, I'm thinking, well, I can talk about medicine because I have a medical background with my degree in pharmacology, but it's more than that. It's like, how does one know that the Akashic records tie into the hologram viewing that, the U.S. Army describes? So all of those things come in through that same energy that we get when we meditate. One thing I really love about the CIA document is it says that hemi-syncing is the way to have out-of-body experiences, to download the Akashic records, to travel to remote locations. And it also said is that hemi-syncing is extremely accessible to someone who has been practicing Zen meditation for 20 years or more. Well, I've been practicing Zen meditation since I was 14. So, and I didn't really realize that, wow, all of this stuff that I'm able to do, if you look at my Wikipedia,
Mm.
my business success has been bizarre. You know, I start off as a wedding photographer, then become the top of the world at that. And then I decide to abandon that and I start a photo lab, which sounds like a stupid idea, but then that winds up being really successful. And I invent the Lightsphere, which was just completely, it was kind of a whim. We wound up selling more than $100 million worth of light spheres. So, and then, you know, I don't know if you know, but lately I've become a screenwriter in Hollywood. I was discovered by one of the top agents because I had a dream, and and I saw the whole movie. So I got on YouTube to download how to write a screenplay, and it said, well, you know, there's a software called Final Draft, and there was a lot of magical things that wound up happening. But I got an agent on my very first screenplay. So all of these things didn't happen because I set a goal and wanted to achieve anything. That's what the book, The Accidental Millionaire, the subtitle is, you know, how to succeed in life without really trying. I had an issue with being called the accidental millionaire because I wanted it to be the accidental entrepreneur. But the publisher, once they buy the rights to your manuscript, they can change anything so long as it doesn't paint you in a bad light. But what basically it described was that until I was age 30, I used to set goals like I want to get here, I want to get there, and then had a really horrible nervous breakdown because I could never achieve any of my goals. And then I gave up on them. And that's when all the magic started to happen. I started to trust my intuition. So
I describe that as stopping to create resistance, because resistance creates pain and it creates difficulties and blockages. And then if you just flow, you know, you trust and flow, things start happening.
they do, because the logical mind actually will stop you from allowing things to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Those of you out there with a pen handy, you can Google Agnes Martin and Annie Leibovitz, because they asked Annie Leibovitz, what's your favorite photograph that you've ever done? And she said, well, it was my photo that I took of Agnes Martin. Now, Agnes Martin is a contemporary artist who sells a painting for $20 million. So Annie asked her, I want to see where your inspiration comes from. And so Agnes said, yeah, I'll take you there. She has a beautiful spread in Santa Fe, New Mexico, but she built this very drab shack, this room that was, it looked like you're inside of a really seedy motel room. It had a wall radiator heater, horrible curtains, ugly floral, comforter, and just a little writing desk. And in this picture, Agnes Martin is just slumped over, looking completely miserable. And Annie Leibovitz said, what's this all about? She goes, why do you sit in this room? How do you get inspiration from here? And she said, I just sit here waiting for inspiration to strike. So she knows what that means. Not trying to come up with something, not trying to achieve something, right? If I were to tell you, write a hit song right now, write the #1 top hit song, you would go,
Exactly.
baby, baby, you make me crazy. Because you're trying to do something, but there's no magic in it. You're trying to do cause and effect. And if I say baby, baby, that's worked before. You make me crazy, that's worked before. But people don't talk like that. So that's not authentically coming from you. So what winds up happening is if you stop trying to do anything and leave everything about your day-to-day existence a complete blank slate, then the universe will start to call. And once you start to answer it and follow the guidance that comes from the downloading of the Akashic records, then you
Yeah,
actually
I wake up with songs. Like I'm
nice.
dreaming, and then I wake up and I have to record because I will forget. But it's just, I'm dreaming this and I'm singing that, and then I wake up, it's like, holy, there's a song here.
Exactly. Right. And it's not something you could have done if I said, do this now. It's very interesting. As a kind of an aside, the Sony used to be really a hot company back in the age of the Trinitron and the It was called the Walkman, and they had Betamax. They were the #1 electronics company, and then they all of a sudden went down the tube. It was interesting. They had a CEO, and he was so dumb. He told his engineers that he wanted them to, they had a company pool. He'd make his engineers dunk underneath the pool, and he told them not to come up for air until they had the solution. Well, if I said, okay, go underwater and don't come out until you have a hit song, it's just not going to happen, right? Because of stress and all of that stuff. So, yeah, so that's where this information comes from. And so, getting into Shungite, which is the reason that we're here, what happened to me was I don't really remember exactly how Shungite crossed my radar. I just remember that it did. And it was like, what? This is really fascinating. So I ordered some, and so like, God, this is garbage. Like, what is this thing? Well, of course, I ordered it from Amazon, and it was counterfeit. I've had a real problem with counterfeiting, even in my mainstream business, which is photographic accessories. So I contacted a couple of actual minds in Russia, finding out that any 16-year-old kid that can make a website can create a Shungite company. So there were a number of orders that I had placed where they had just evaporated, but I finally did get one piece sent through Russian post, and it took about, I think it was 70 days to get to me. I even forgot about it. But once I got it, I was really mesmerized by it. And I didn't understand, why it had this really interesting kind of generator kind of feeling to it. I could tell. In fact, I've had people put this on their, their third eye chakra. And I had one person who wrote on my testimonials. We were all doing a group meditation out on a football field. And I asked everyone, put your bare feet on the grass, and we're going to lay on the grass. We're just going to smile at the sky. And I passed the Shungite around, and everyone, put it to their foreheads. And this one woman, she stood up, and at that time they had started the sprinklers, and we were out there for 3 hours meditating. It was so much fun. But there were these sprinklers that started to go shh. So this woman stood up, and she had this on her head, and she was going, I thought she was mimicking the sprinklers. She was going, shh. And I thought, whatever floats your boat is fine by me. And, so just watching her do that for a while. And then she looked at me, she said, Gary, I haven't been able to turn my neck in 7 years.
Oh.
And I was like going, that's right. She was that person. If I talked to her, she would go, oh, really? Oh, really? She was kind of like that. And so putting that on there, I've had people with bursitis touch it. And, I don't publicize these things because
I'm thinking here, I got to put it on my partner's back.
Well, there's interesting things. So let me explain how this works and why it's most effective.
Yeah, because I only knew that this was good for avoiding
EMFs,
5G and EMFs. Yeah, I didn't know it was much more powerful than that.
Well, it's so interesting. Yeah, so if you research the history of Shungite, it exists in only one place in the world, and that is Karelia, Russia. There's a crater lake, and this is very, very Western Russia, almost bordering Norway. And there's this crater lake, and I think it was Peter the Great, the Tsar of Russia. He actually started to hear of all these people living around this village, around this lake, and they lived longer, they were stronger, they were healthier. He literally went there on horse and took a dunk in the lake. He wound up creating a spa there because of the magical properties of the water. And and so
I
what
can just
he did,
imagine diving into that water with Shungite.
I mean, the whole lake is Shungite,
Wow.
So it's so anyway, he would command his troops to go dunk in the lake before they would go out to battle. And Peter the Great wound up winning all of these, just all of these battles that were quite interesting. So that kind of, wound up being a part of folklore. There's a spa there and everything like that. It wasn't until, think about 20 years ago, there was a Nobel Prize that was awarded to 3 people for, sorry.
You're getting a call from the universe.
Abe Lincoln here. There was a, what did I say? What was I just saying about the water and the,
let's backtrack from okay, so he used to go into that water.
Yeah, and he won all of these battles. Oh, so the Nobel Prize winners, forgot what year it was. It was about 20 years ago, but there were 3 of them, and I think it was they won the Nobel Prize in chemistry, finding out what it was about this stuff that actually was so powerful. It's very, very interesting, because if you were able to hold this thing, it'd be like, wow, this is incredibly light. Like, people are just amazed at how light noble type 1 Shungite is. And that's because it's literally carbon. It's 97% carbon. I've seen oh my gosh, it makes me so mad.
Yeah, and then when you pose on your skin and it stays, it's like graphite.
Well, it's exactly like rubbing a pencil, because a pencil is graphite, right? So a graphite has really interesting properties. There's also a sheet called graphene, which is monolayer carbon, also has amazing properties. So carbon itself is a very, very perfect molecule for so many reasons. First of all, it's a hexagon. Yeah. So, but what's really neat about it is, if you've ever studied organic chemistry.
I did.
Did you? Okay. So you'll know that every single thing in organic chemistry was the synthesis and reactions of carbon molecules. Carbon is the center of organic chemistry. And why is that? It's because carbon is so interesting. So the carbon molecule by itself is called aromatic, or it's also called a benzene ring. What happens is there's double valence, then a single valence, then double valent, single valent, and they switch. It's like a billboard going across Times Square, except it's a circle. So this thing goes zzz and hums. At the apex of every hexagon, there is what they call bond affinity, tremendous bond affinity. Carbon is the supermagnet of the entire universe. It wants to grab onto another carbon. It wants to grab onto 2 oxygens, CO2. It wants to grab on to CH2, whatever it is that creates the sugar molecule, or DNA. It's all amino acids. It's all carbon based.
Have you ever read a book called Sugar Blues?
No.
They explain about the molecules of sugar and how the refined white sugar became a saturated carbon molecule that actually steals from the body instead of giving.
Yeah. And that's when we start to go into antioxidants, right? Because of the electron imbalance of molecules. But more importantly, for fullerenes, what a fullerene is it's 60 carbon molecules shaped like a soccer ball. Most of them are hexagons. There's a few pentagons in there, but it creates a perfect soccer ball. And so what happens is that you have these soccer balls, they're all locked in, so they can't bond with anything. They want to, but they're stuck with other carbons. Then you stick carbon, soccer ball, soccer ball, soccer ball, soccer ball, and you get all of them together so that the carbon cannot bind to anything. But this thing is a massive spin generator. And when we talk about spin, anything in nature spins, let's just say in a positive, we'll call it clockwise, okay? So it sounds like you've had a physics background or a chemistry background.
Chemistry.
Yeah, okay, so you took physics. So you remember in electricity and magnetism, when current goes through a wire, the electric field goes perpendicular where your fingertips point. So if the current's going that way, the magnetic field goes in this direction. Same thing that happens with anything in the universe that is natural to the universe has a positive spin. Anything that is synthetic has a negative spin. And that's why they're so disruptive to our bodies and to nature, because anything synthetic has a negative spin. And once you understand that, then everything makes sense. For example, electricity, direct current, no problem, not disruptive to man, not harmful to our cells or cell health or anything. But you take the current and make it go back and forth like an alternating current, that creates massive spin confusion. So we get near EMFs and we don't understand, but what's happening is our cells are completely in chaos, because as we know, we're all electricity, nerve conduction, thoughts in our brain, pain, even vision, everything's electricity. And once this electricity leaves the physical body, guess what it does? It dissolves. It literally decomposes into earth. So the only thing that we are is electricity. You bring in EMFs or currents that are going wildly back and forth, or, you know, non-ionizing radiation that comes into the cells. And I mean, I've talked about it a lot in my videos as to why, you know, people who are under radiation, they have a hard time breathing. It simulates elevation sickness. It's not that they can't breathe. You know, we put them on ventilators thinking that's going to help. It's that they can't process the oxygen, because our bodies have a thing called a porphyrin molecule. And the porphyrin molecule is extremely luminescent, and it reacts to radiation by vibrating very quickly. When it attaches to iron, it becomes heme and hemoglobin. When you've got this crazy thing going batshit, and here comes an oxygen that's trying to attach to it, and it gets kicked out.
Oh, now it makes sense.
Yeah, now you've got an oxygen problem. People who are under radiation sickness, they have sore muscles or joint aches, or feels like arthritis. That's because porphyrin, when it attaches to magnesium, becomes myoglobin. Myoglobin transports oxygen to the muscle cells. And in the absence of that, then the oxygen cells are starved. They get into an anaerobic environment, and then lactic acid builds up, and we wind up just like we've climbed 40 flights of stairs the day before. We have muscle stiffness. We have, you know, just migraine headaches, things like that. That is all a result of the negative spin of EMFs or electrical exposure. It's called neurasthenia. It's actually an affliction. And so what happens with Shungite is the ultimate positive spin generator. The way I like to describe it is, say, for example, someone drops a pebble in a pond and it's negative energy, okay? So it's coming at us. Wouldn't it be great to drop our own pebble and send out an attack wave? Right? So you got one wave going like this, and you have another wave going like that, and eventually it cancels the waves. That's what Shungite does.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's exactly what Shungite does.
It neutralizes.
Yes, it's quantum spin. And you know, because you understand how the carbon atom works, think of 60 of them completely bound and handcuffed together, and then you make all of that 97% fullerenes in this guy. You've got all of this positive spin energy that's radiating outwards. You know, people go, well, where should I wear it? Should I wear it, you know, here, there? No, it's the same thing as dropping a pebble. It will radiate outwards. Now, the thing about Shungite is it's the amount that it's in contact with your skin. So that's why even type 2 works really well. You know, I like type 2 because sometimes people don't like to wear the nugget, you know, the hard Elite One nugget. I mean, I wear it because I can really tell the difference. But the Elite One nugget, I don't know if you can see it, but it's a rock.
That's beautiful.
Oh yeah, this one's gorgeous. But it's a rock. And so it might not be the most comfortable thing to wear, but these things still test really well for conductivity, and they're great. They're flat, you know, a lot of surface area to be in contact with your skin. And therefore it sends out that canceling wave. I call it like noise reduction headphones, right? You're on a plane, it's the way noise reduction headphones work is it hears the incoming waves and it sends out a wave that's 180 degrees out of phase. So it keeps bumping, and then finally it flatlines. And that's noise cancellation headphones. These are like molecular noise cancellation, on a quantum level. That's what Shungite is. And that's why it works so well. People just go, well, this is ridiculous. They have published peer-reviewed lab studies showing that laboratory mice live 93% longer when given a suspension of fullerenes in olive oil. They showed on my webpage, verifiedshungite.com, I have research articles, and they show how this beehive keeper painted his beehives with Shungite paint, and he hasn't had a hive collapse in 4 years. He said it basically built a Faraday cage. Faraday cage means that it's not capacitance, so it will not take the radiation. In fact, it just bounces it right off. So there's, and then of course Shungite and water. People just go, my gosh, I don't know why Shungite and water. Peter the Great dunked in it. I take Shungite baths all the time, and
Do you drink? Do you put it on the water to drink?
Everything. Oh yeah,
everything?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, it's in. Look at my plants behind me. My cat water is it's Shungite water. So once you start to understand that you're not protected by synthetic influence. Again, synthetic spins negative. Anything synthetic. It could be GMOs, it could be glyphosate, it could be
chemtrails.
Which is powdered aluminum. All of those things are disruptive to our bodies. But actually, what happens with the barium and the powdered aluminum that is put into the atmosphere, that's more about actually two things. One is to desensitize and calcify our pineal glands, but it's also to load up our bodies with metal so that we become antennas for EMF energy. That's why people who wear a lot of jewelry, earrings and things like that, man, you've got like a little UHF antenna right on your body that's going to well, there you have it. And that's why my Shungite is always on a rope. It's never on a chain. Bluetooth headphones, they're incredibly high in EMFs. So that's why things like when you put it in water, people go, well, I'll put it in swamp water, and it becomes extremely, you've read articles about the miracles of Shungite and swamp water. It's not that it eliminates the solutes. It's not like it's going to just like make all of that junk disappear. It's going to take away the threat of biological harm from that junk. Because when you keep this water that has all this positive spin quality, what happens in Shungite and water, you'll see all these bubbles form. I don't know if you've done it, but if you have Shungite and water, it's really pretty. And I have photos on my website. All these bubbles form. That's nitrogen gas being released from the pressure of the water. And that's, because
I'm gonna put it inside my filter. It's got carbon. Like I have one of those filters that have all these layers of minerals.
Yeah, don't put it inside the filter because then it'll just pass through. It's got to be in the water.
In the water.
Because what'll happen is that anything that has negative synthetic spin quality to it, it will neutralize and even put them in a positive spin situation. So, yeah, that's why people just go, oh, Shungite can't be that great. But then the testimonials that I get from people are just like, oh, you'll never believe what it did with this or that or this or that. I mean, I have these, plates on the back of my phone, and a person said, when I'd hold my phone, my hand would get hot, or I would have like nerve problems with that hand. And the minute that, I have my plates so that when you hold your phone, your fingers are always in contact with it, right? So what it does is it takes all that negative spin quality that comes from anything synthetic. The only thing that is natural about electricity is lightning. When lightning strikes, this is awesome. Wow, we smell this fresh air that's, kind of loaded with ozone and things like that. But nothing else about electricity is natural. It's all synthetic. But we're surrounded by it. People ask me all the time, should I put Shungite on my router? Should I put Shungite on my, whatever? And that's all fine and everything until you walk around with an EMF reader and you start to find out that your printer has got extremely high EFs. And you wonder why that is? It's because it has Bluetooth connection. On my YouTube channel, you see me go right next to my Sonos or my Alexa. The thing just goes 300, 500, 700, milliwatts per square meter. Incredible EFs coming from those things. Anything that's if it says smart, that's synthetic. Kelowna became a smart city.
Yeah.
Smart home devices,
That's what they're trying the world to become, everything connected. They have, because I was taking computer science at the college, and then one class that was in the network class was being given by Cisco.
Oh, right.
And I was like, why is Cisco taking over this class? And all they were doing was this brainwash about the Internet of Things.
Without a doubt.
And I was like, oh, I'm paying for this class and I'm getting brainwashed by Cisco.
And that's one of the huge blessings that I have a degree in pharmacology, because pharmacology is nothing but the synthesis of drugs. And, I find that anything that makes us unhealthy is because it has negative spin quality. It's synthesized. Anything that's synthetic is made by man. Nature has had billions of years to create this perfect balance of our health and our environment. It's like we know how long giraffes' necks have to be. We know the predator-prey relationships of antelope versus lion. It all somehow works out after billions of years. But then in pharmacology, we are creating synthetic compounds to fix the synthetic afflictions that occur in our body because of synthetics. We're literally fighting synthetics with synthetics. And it's nonsense. And I remember being in that, just going, when we create a new drug, so much goes into testing of the unknown side effects, right?
Mm-hmm.
Without a doubt, it doesn't belong in your body. It's synthetic. It never belonged in your body. So now it's there, the body has to deal with it. Well, that's really neat that it has this effect, like, Paxil is a serotonin reuptake release inhibitor. It's like, oh, well, if you keep serotonin bathed around the synapses and doesn't get absorbed, then you'll feel better. But what that does is that makes your brain activity stop. You're literally putting something between the synapses to create your brain, to prevent your brain from being more responsive, which is why people on antidepressants are kind of foggy. It's because their brains are being de-electrified. And so anything that is synthetic is bad for nature. Anything that is natural spins in a positive direction. What's great about Shungite is this thing is such a massive hyper battery that does nothing but emit super, super positive spin, so that anything comes at it, EMFs, negative energy, negative thoughts, all of those things they're the result of something coming in through our ears or eyes. You read something on CNN and you go, oh my God, there's Asian murder hornets, and you breathe differently, right?
Uh-huh.
You find that if you put your feet in grass, or what I like to do, I've helped people who are actually, but I've helped people who are actually suicidal. And I've just said, let's lay on the grass, put your feet on the bark of a tree, and then I'll just have them, put Shungite on different chakras. It's different for everybody. Before we go, I do want to talk about what a chakra is, because there's a lot of confusion about that.
And just before you talk chakras, Amanda is saying she got the meter you have that was very eye-opening.
Yeah.
And I got it too after I watched your video.
Yeah.
I got the one you suggested.
The HQ. Yeah. Yeah. It teaches you so much. Like even your car radio, if it has a Bluetooth connection, that thing is, hang on. I have to tell this person that I'm in a podcast. But so the thing about like saying, well, I want to put one, oh no, my Sonos is high, I got to put one there. Oh no, I got to put one on my router, I got to put one here, it's like, you know what, if you have it on your body, then anything coming at you is going to or sending pulsating energy, that counter wave. So it's best to have it on you.
And Robert is asking if Shungite needs to be cleaned.
I'm sorry to laugh. It just reminds me of I was at a store, and this lady sells orange rocks to clean Shungite, and also said that you have to clean Shungite all the time. And I love this one. It wears out in a couple of years. Okay, this rock is 2 billion years old. Okay. And they also say charge it under the moonlight. Like, really? Because this is deep mine Shungite. This came from hundreds and hundreds of feet below the earth. Never saw a single photon of light from the moon or the sun or anything. And now you're saying that it will not work if, so no, it doesn't need to be.
And as far as I heard, the moon is an artificial satellite. I don't have proofs about that. It's a theory.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who say different things, but no, it's so frustrating when I hear people talk about crystals and they say, oh man, like this one, if you put it there, it'll like totally like energize your throat chakra, and it's like, actually, like the truth of the matter is, right now you can go on Google and you can do what is the frequency of the throat chakra, and it'll tell you 168 hertz or something like that. It's a constant sound. It's a constant tone. All of your chakras have a different tone. And so people ask, what are chakras? Chakras are the low resistance points to access the electrical system in your body. I call them USB ports. Okay.
I like that.
Yeah. So your throat chakra is a USB port. Your, crown chakra, your root chakra, they're USB ports. So what happens is, in a situation like you have a lot of negative energy or exposed to a lot of EMFs, your vibrations actually go lower. So for example, if you're supposed to be at 268, but you're constantly being worn down, that's in harmony with nature, goes, and it's a little bit lower. So you find the rock that's not 268, but maybe multiples and third, fifths, or octaves of 268, and you put that on there, and even the CIA document describes it. It's called frequency following response. When you put the crystal of the correct vibrational frequency on that chakra, it goes, and you're going, your body will not tolerate that dissonance for very long, and you will then raise your frequency to match. That's chakra healing. But I've seen
I work with tuning forks. They're tuned to the different frequencies of the chakras. And I've seen, like, I measure it first with the rods.
Okay.
And then if I find a blockage, then I go and tune it. And then you measure it again, and it's unblocked.
Yeah, you'd have to use a frequency oscillator, and then you'd have to get a calculator and measure it out so that it's multiples or in thirds or fifths of that. But yeah, I guess that would work. I think one thing that was really alarming is I saw at the store, this woman brought in a sack full of crystals to this crystal store, which is a horrible idea. A sack full of crystals sounds like this, because they're all different notes. Yeah. So people go, oh my God, I bought a sack full of crystals. Even a friend of mine, her daughter was going through a really hard time. And she said, yeah, so I bought a sack full of crystals. I had my daughter put it underneath her pillow. And I was like going, oh God, that's not going to end well. And I said, and how did that work out? And she goes, oh, she was just completely worse. Well, that's because you have all these different frequencies that are not in harmony with each other, all screaming out a different tone and completely jacking, you know what I mean? The best, and what's really neat about Shungite is this doesn't emit a frequency. What it does is it unspins the negative spin quality that's now connected straight to your entire body. And I find that when things get a little bit gnarly, and I get a lot of, if someone's really angry at me, I get pain in the kidneys or whatever. I can diffuse that by plugging this onto one of my USB ports and completely antivirusing it. So that's how this stuff works. And it's, and I'm glad you have this program on, because it takes a long time to teach how this stuff works. And what drives me so crazy is there's so much bullshit out there about crystals, about,
what I find is that in order to market lots of things in any area, they have to create a little story that makes it more interesting.
Right. And I'm real careful, just, if I were to put up all the testimonials that I got, people would just think this site is complete and absolute bullshit, because they would just go, it can't do this, it can't do that. It's going to do different things for everybody. I think one thing that's hard to do is expectation energy. You know what I mean? Like children who really want, people who really want to have children can't seem to get pregnant until they adopt. Then all of a sudden they have children. It's because your expectation energy, your vibrational energy of wanting something happen, or something
creating
to happen,
resistance.
Creating resistance. Exactly. Yeah. So the best way to,
and that is the key of magic. The ritualistic magic is actually to work a way to break with that anxiety of the outcome.
Exactly.
And that's what you were working on your life. You have no expectations. You're just going through the journey, enjoying every second of the journey.
Exactly. Yeah. Having what I call expectation energy. When you get into a committed relationship, now two people have expectation energy. And that's why these things wind up, you either become confluent and the two of you really don't explore each other because you're walking on eggshells. Or if you do, you find out that, wait, you're not what I expected. You're not what I expected. Well, you're not what I expected. And then so these things fall apart. And so expectation in anything, in career, when you're going for a job interview, I really need that job. Man, that boss can feel it and doesn't know why, but doesn't want you around. You walk into, I used to be a wedding photographer, and there were women who really wanted to get married. And you could tell, like, they were very predatory about trying, is this where I'm going to meet Mr. Right? And so that kind of thing winds up repelling, men, or the car dealer, the car salesman who really needs to get that sale. Hey, you're a good looking couple. How about stepping into one of these Buick Skylarks, all expectation energy is incredibly repulsive. And so, the best thing to do with anything is just to have, I love all the negative connotations that society puts on things that are actually good for us. Like they have the word bimbo or airhead or whatever. One of the things about the CIA document in the first page, it said that Niels Bohr's son, Niels Bohr is the one who conceptualized the atom, said, Dad, you're not thinking, you're just merely being logical. And what he meant was that people were trying to solve problems rather than letting the solution appear. So that's what happens with expectation energy. So I'm one of those weird people that just says, look, if you buy Shungite from me, it will be tested, it will be weighed. If you've looked at my site, every single piece, I weigh it, I show the conductivity test on the multimeter, and then I actually show, because that's one of the fun things about going to a crystal store, right? Is you actually look at it, and each one is individually numbered, and then I send that exact rock. And that's why I'm constantly in a sellout situation. I'm in a sellout situation right now. It's as soon as we put stuff up, it goes, because there's so much fake Shungite out there.
I was checking because my mom wanted to buy one from your site. And I was like, oh, this is sold out already. Sold out.
Yeah. It's because there's only me, and I can maybe put up, maybe 3 to 9 rocks per day. And I'm sending them out all around the world, but the reason that I made this site is to protect the reputation of Shungite. If I didn't step in and start sending out quality pieces and everyone was buying their stuff from Amazon, guess what? pretty soon Shungite would be the laughing stock of the world. That's the reason why I did it. It's like,
and that has happened with many different things that they get a bad
crystals.
reputation. Yeah.
Crystals have a bad
For me,
reputation.
as what I understand about like clear quartz is that they work as a hard drive and they record information.
Well, all things actually record information. What's lovely about quartz is that quartz is in everything. Silicon dioxide is quartz. Silicon Valley, the liquid crystal display, the quartz watch. What's neat about quartz is that piece that you have. Hold it up for me. I want to show you something really interesting about it. You notice that it's in a hexagon?
Yeah.
See, now that's a very interesting thing because that's energetically, it's one of the most perfect shapes of nature. When you shatter quartz and you try to make it, into an obelisk or something like that, you can't make a four-sided quartz because it's a crystal.
I watched recently a documentary on YouTube about the shape, the hexagon shape, and why the beehives are made that way. Because it's the most efficient,
strongest, no space in between, right?
Exactly.
Because circles would have a space in between.
Exactly.
But it's more than that. It's the energetic quality of the hexagon, the vibrational energy. Every hexagon faces its own mirror image. Every hexagon has a neighbor that is the exact same angle on both sides. So hexagons they're incredibly strong. A triangle is extremely strong, but the hexagon is extremely strong when combined with other hexagons. You try to take a bunch of hexagons together and collapse them, it's not going to work because they'll all push up against each other. And that's one of the most beautiful shapes in nature. But you were talking about quartz. Quartz emits only one frequency, just like everything else. What's neat about quartz is that you can cut it into different thicknesses and it'll change its frequency. Quartz is also an extremely great, I want to call luminescent. Luminescent means when it receives a vibrational energy, it will actually hang on to it. It'll emit it, but it'll also hang on to it, which is just like porphyrins. So no, quartz is extremely handy, but you would have to be quite an expert with quartz, have a quartz oscillator, cut it to exactly the right shape and size. And I don't know why no one has thought of this. You could make the world completely change if you literally manufactured quartz to 268 hertz. Hate to say it, that'd be the end of crystal stores, because all you need to do is go, okay, oh, wow, I'm back. Frequency follows response. Oh, throat chakra. What? Throat chakra quartz. Oh my God, I'm back. And then all of a sudden, all your chakras are in tune, right? Because they're not vibrating lower than nature intended them to. And then you're vibrationally ready to go. You find people who are aware of energy, like, as you can probably tell, I am, that you have an incredible amount of extremely positive energy, unless you're being attacked and you don't take the time, you can be attacked. Sometimes when I put out YouTubes, there's a lot of negative energy and I forget to repel it.
I know. I hear you.
Yeah. So you can
anything you do that is out in the public and you're getting evidence and you've gotten yourself into big evidence with things you've done in life, you get all people that are, I would like that,
Yeah. And it's, but it's because you have to understand those people they're going through a phase and they're very fearful. People act irrational when they're scared, so that completely makes sense, but that does happen. But you'll find that people who understand quantum energy, understand Akashic records, understand chakras, understand how crystals work, you'll find that those people actually are of a different energy. They're more vibrant, they're more colorful, they're more loving, they're more unconditional loving. And so that's the goal, is of course happiness. Even unhappiness is synthetic. You look at a deer in the woods, who should be your mentor. The deer doesn't know when it's the 30th and mortgages due. The deer doesn't save up for its retirement. The deer doesn't worry about, is this the day that, a mountain lion is going to take me out? No, the deer doesn't do that. The deer only goes on alert when it hears some weird stuff in the background, and then it knows to run. So the deer is extremely efficient in its energetic being, it doesn't try to be anything. Even like an apple tree, the apple just grows apples. It doesn't care if you like apples or not. It doesn't care about its production or its yield or, the quality of its apples. It's just going to do what it does, which is naturally produce apples. That is natural. Synthetic,
that is beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Synthetic is putting expectations on the apple tree. Synthetic is putting hormones in chickens so they'll lay more eggs. Synthetic is genetically modifying organisms so that there'll be more of what we want to be, and that's not natural. So whenever you think, what's synthetic, what's natural, one of the biggest things that I found completely hilarious is the high fiber diet. Because they started putting fiber in shitty foods. And, the thing is, they started to realize that people with high fiber diets actually lived longer. It wasn't because of the fiber in the food that they were eating. It's because they were eating natural food, which naturally has lots of fiber. So to think in a circular way of, if we took the fiber out of natural food and jammed it into this Hostess Twinkie and call it a high fiber Twinkie, then people will live longer and they'll have less colon cancer. And it's synthetic. So whatever is synthetic, if it's made by man, if it's, created by man, if man touches it, everything that man touches dies. Do you ever stop and think about that? Everything man touches dies. Look at my house. So sorry.
No worries.
Hang on just a second. Hold on. Hold on. Shoot. You know what? It's got to be important. Can we go on pause for?
Okay.
Well, you know what? Everyone can hang on. Can I put it on mute or something like that?
Yeah, you can put it on mute.
I just need to take this one call real quick. Hold on.
Whoa.
Are we almost done or?
Yeah.
Wait.
We can.
Hold on. I have to run. I'm so sorry to cut this short. I have to do something.
No worries. We've talked a lot already.
Yeah. So okay.
I would love to.
We can schedule for another one, but
that would be great if we do it again.
Yeah. Well, hopefully. Did we get good questions? You know what? You can do that while I'm just going to check this mail and I have to DocuSign something.
I have a question here. What's Shungite? Okay. And I would say you have to watch the video from the beginning because we talked about it. Right. But we'll do it again. Adam.
Yeah.
And,
okay. No, you can keep talking. I'm just gonna DocuSign this document real quick. Okay. So go ahead and ask questions. Okay.
Well, Adam asked what's Shungite.
Okay.
Do you know anything about the Looking Glass project? Or is that another show?
I don't know anything about the Looking Glass project. I'm sorry. No, I don't know.
We'll have to research and come back on that.
Right. But remember, if it came through your ears or your eyes, I wouldn't really trust it. All of the knowledge that you can trust actually comes through intuition. And so when I'm almost done with this document, by the way, I'm just DocuSigning. And that's what happens is like people go, oh my God, well, you must have read this, or you must have, do you like listen to Joe Dispenza, or, all these different things. It's like, no, I really don't. Hold on just a quick second.
Yeah, I think it gets to a point that you're so connected to the source, to the Akasha or whatever you want to call it, that you don't need to read books anymore, and you don't need to.
No, you really don't. Well, the interesting thing is when you meditate, and those of you who, people have such a hard time with meditation. How do I do it right? Do I get an app? Do I listen? Do I recite a mantra? All meditation is getting to a place where you can't hear or see anything from the outside. And once you're able to do that, then you're guaranteed that all of your awareness is from your pineal gland. And that's the thing. It's a practice. There's a man named Kyle Cease. He was a very successful comedian. Had a nervous breakdown. couldn't do comedy anymore, and he didn't understand why. Those of you who want to look him up on YouTube, he's got a hilarious video series on how he started meditating. He had a nervous breakdown. He said, you know what? I'm dedicating myself to 100 days of 1 hour meditation per day. And he said, I'm going to put my iPhone away. I'm just going to just sit and, not do anything. But then he'd go on the webcam right afterwards and say, hey, everybody. So day one, I got into 10 minutes of it and I thought I was done. I can't believe I was so dumb to commit to this. Oh, go ahead.
I don't know. Somebody said there's no sound.
There's no sound.
Are you still mute? Well, I can hear you.
Yeah, I didn't mute.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Maybe it's just that person.
Maybe it's the cabal.
That could be. If anybody can say if you're hearing, please say something on the chat.
Yeah. Well,
because I can hear you and you can hear me, so I don't know why it wouldn't be.
Okay.
It's okay now. It's okay now.
Okay, good. But anyway, so day 2, he says, hey, everyone. Oh, man. Hate to admit this, but 10 minutes into it, I masturbated, And so he goes through, this is day 16. And then as he goes further into it, he starts to say the coolest stuff. Like, did you know that when someone breaks your heart, they didn't really break your heart. They broke your expectations of them, which drives you closer to your heart. And he just keeps coming up with this. By the time he gets to day 100, he is a guru, And that's one of the things that got a lot of people turned on into meditation. Meditation is nothing but, we don't like being alone with our thoughts. We're trained to.
It's just scary.
I got nothing to do. I got to watch Netflix.
Because it's encountering with your own power, the power you're taught you don't have, and then you're like, what?
Yeah, but it's also extremely boring. And that's one thing that you have to accept is and what they talk about in the CIA document, for the left hemisphere, needs activity all the time. That's the part that's the analytical, logical, looks for patterns, looks for contrast. And they literally said that the reason that hypnosis works is because you literally lull the left hemisphere to sleep. Watch this go back and forth. And it's so monotonous and so boring that the left hemisphere actually clocks out. And in that clocking out, you get access to the right hemisphere, which is the first step in what they call hemisyncing. What they don't describe is what it does to the pineal gland. The pineal gland is not going to wake up when you're on Tinder. It's just not. Mm-hmm. It's not going to wake up when you're, going through Instagram or anything like that. It only wakes up in a background of complete silence. But people think it's boring. It's really boring. I was teaching my son how to meditate. He's 9 years old. And he goes, okay, so breathe 2 inches below my navel. Okay. And I said, okay, good. Are you there? And he goes, I feel good. I said, all right, whatever you do, don't picture the letter A. And he goes, and his eyes shut, oh, Dad, why did you do that? And I said, I'm sorry. Okay, go back to where you were. That was my fault, my bad. So he goes back. Okay, I think, yeah, all right. I said, good. Don't picture an elephant. And he's like, Dad, why did you do that? And I said, because I'm trying to teach you that anything that comes in through your ears or your eyes breaks you out of that spell. Mm-hmm. See, so that's one of the big lessons that we're learning in Zen meditation, is the reason that monks take a vow of silence for a number of years, or they sit in a tree and they come out amazingly smart. We just go, what a dumbass sitting in a tree for a year. No, they're coming out with way more knowledge than you ever would. I mean, even on the dervish, because dervish meditate spinning, so they're in movement. Oh, okay.
But if like I've tried doing that, and if you have to keep constant focus on one point, and if you get the focus out of there, you're done, and you can even fall because you're spinning.
Yeah. I'm not an expert on that. I mean, I just know about Zen meditation. But regardless, is if you can block out your 5 senses, then you'll have access to the silence, which will then wake up your pineal gland. And people just go, I can't turn my thoughts off. That's fine. That's just static electricity. You know, oh God, I can't believe that that boy didn't call me back. And oh, how come those girls are so mean to me? You know, that will all kind of fizz out. Just stick with that. You can think any thoughts you want. You're guaranteed that those thoughts are your own. See, that's what I love about, you know, but you're not going to go, oh, I got a text from that salesman again. You know what I mean? Like, you're not reacting. And that's the part that, you know, that works.
You're observing.
You're observing, and you're actually being present in the moment. And that's the beauty of meditation. And
that is, yeah.
And people who think it's boring, you might think it's boring, but once you get into it, it is addictive. Like you wouldn't believe.
It becomes part of your daily life. You can be doing anything and be on that same state because you can recall it anytime.
Totally. And people who jog, long distance runners, they're meditating. People who work in their garden, they're meditating because they're not being interrupted. You know, so it doesn't mean you have to just like, you know, I mean, in the darkness and the quietest is when I really get the most pineal gland activity. But when you're just even knitting, just anything where you're not being interrupted, that's meditative wavelength. And, you know, knitting, I think, is a great idea.
That's actually what because I do crafts and that's one of my meditation moments. So if I'm doing beading, it's putting one bead by bead, and people say, oh, you have a lot of patience, but it's just that it's a meditation. It's a pleasure to be there thinking of nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Right.
Yeah.
And society really needs more of that. It really does, without a doubt. Yeah.
So we have a question here. Amanda said, when you were addressing where to put the Shungite, so are you more so protecting yourself and loved ones, or have you put pieces around various electronics as well?
No. I mean, I used to start doing that until I got my meter. Like I would stick one in front of my router, especially, and then I would put it around and think, you know, by the time you're done with all the offensive microwave or, you know, even the heater, there's so much EMFs coming from so many different ways. All you need to do is walk around with that thing and you'll be terrified about how much EMFs come around from everywhere. So no, I completely in my practice have it attached to my skin or you know, somewhere on me so that it sends out that pulsing counterwave.
And that pulsing counterwave from the Shungite is big enough from one stone to cover your whole field?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you don't need as much as I do unless you're walking down Bernard Avenue this summer. You know what I mean? Like it was crazy. So, but you really can't.
I took this machine with me to Vancouver. We were driving, and as soon as you reach Burnaby, they have lots of new towers.
Yeah.
So some were already active and spiked.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. There's a great book called The Invisible Rainbow, if you want to read about the disease called neurasthenia or porphyria. Both of those are extremely, to the people that are sensitive. And there's a lot of people that aren't sensitive. Like you go and you'll see birds sitting on power wires. Why don't they drop dead? It's because they have moved off of that frequency and they've built an immunity to it. That's why in Spanish flu or, you know, the Asian bird flu, during all of those times, there were a lot of people that died.
Spikes, yeah.
There were spikes, but then there were people who survived it. And it's just because the same thing as the birds on the high power wire, they don't have the same level of porphyrins that are resonating with that frequency. And so they completely kind of like, you know, they evolve through it. Doesn't mean that they're not going to get extremely sick. It just means that they're not going to drop dead right in front of your eyes, right? So
I think that airplanes must have lots of emissions because
tremendous.
I've been connecting the dots and I've been going to Brazil every year, and when I come back, I always get sick.
Without a doubt. Well, it's also flying in high ionosphere. You know, my doctor I'm going to be 60 next month. And he's like going, every time you come in for physicals or lab panels, you actually are getting younger. So he wanted to know what was my secret. I said, well, so 16 ounces of celery juice through a masticating juicer every morning. I'm religious about that.
Also, we do that too.
Yeah, I have a grounding strap, that earthing, so it's plugged into my ground
we
cable.
have that one too.
Yeah. And the last one is I wear Shungite. And but he was looking at my glucose sensitivity, and he was looking at all these different panels, and he said, your hormone levels are higher than I've ever known it. And he's been my doctor for a number of years, and he says, look at last year compared to this year, and all these other things. And it's just honestly because electrically everything is just flowing perfectly. The acupuncturists have it right. They know more than doctors.
What I find with those techniques is that you go and you feel better, but if you keep doing what you were doing that was unbalancing you, you have to keep going back.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Without a doubt. Yeah. It's there's
you same go thing back with chiropractors and any holistic healing. If you don't heal, you change something that is causing it, you gotta keep going back.
Oh yeah, but I mean, chiropractors absolutely know their stuff because they free blockages, right? It's all about spine and it's all about that. So chiropractors and acupuncturists, where Western medicine is fantastic, is trauma. You come in there and you've got a gunshot wound. A chiropractor is not going to be able to fix that, so there's a lot of things that Western medicine can do, but invasive surgery, or like radiation therapy for cancer patients, a lot of people get healed in different ways. So I'm not here to make any judgment or assessment on anything. I'm just telling you how we are electrical beings, and we are living in an electrically polluted universe that's spinning negative spin at us in greater content all the time. And then we eat GMO foods, or we eat synthetic things like diet soda and all of those things that all have a negative spin. So
diet soda is even worse than the soda. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, all of these things. You look at any packaged food, if it has a label, if it has a box, there's man involved in it, right? So everything man touches, it dies. Look at my wood floors. Those used to be trees. They were alive. Look at leather couch. That used to be on a cow. So everything that man touches dies. I was telling my children, we're sitting under this gorgeous willow tree. I said, just look at the beauty of that, like all the leaves on it. And underneath me is the same amount of mass, but it's underneath the ground, and it's pulling up, nutrients and minerals from the soil. And from the leaves, it's taking photosynthesis and giving nutrients down the bark. And I said, but man will chop that tree down and create a telephone pole. The only reason that tree died was so it could hold up an electrical cable. Or the only reason why those cows died was because we could eat their meat, which is, another discussion, but so that it could be part of my couch. Like everything that man gets his hands on dies, because everything that man creates is synthetic. What's really beautiful about natural universe is nothing that man can make can vibrate higher than natural frequency. And as long as we understand that, as long as we constantly go back to what is of the earth, what is natural, what is not synthetic, we'll be healthier, we'll live longer, we'll get rid of all of these, things that are afflicting us or making us mentally ill. We get mentally ill, and then we use synthetics to try to cure that mental illness. Like, when you really start to pull back the curtain, you can't unsee what you now know. So it's a simple rule for me. Is it synthetic or is it natural? That's all you need to know. From that point on, no confusion.
Yeah. And at one point, we can think about the cycles of the universe. I think we journey into a cycle of synthetics so deep that we have to go back and journey to the natural cycle again. And I think that's where we're at now, going back to the natural frequencies.
We are,
because
yeah, yeah. I mean, Earth is healing itself, and it does that when it's under Aquarius because all of that universal light energy. But it's like you just go, "Oh wow, COVID has been horrible." It's like, really? Each cruise ship, 60 tons of fuel per hour. Look at how many of those are being torn apart. Carnival Cruises went bankrupt. They're scrapping all of those ships. 180,000 commercial air flights per day in the world grounded because of COVID. Like, how great is that for the Earth? So when people just say, "Oh, all of these things are terrible," they're terrible for your Pisces universe. When you could were you really happy being in traffic jams, stopping at Starbucks just so that you could wake up and get through the day? And then after a hard day at work, you would have to go to the bar and get some drinks. And then you're so bored out of your mind, you go onto your iPad and you watch Netflix until you fell asleep and started the whole day over again. Like, why was that good? You know what I mean?
And in between, you had a nightmare all night because you were not feeling good.
Exactly. But I take my children, down to, Mission Park, and they put their feet in the stream all day long. They're never bored, right?
Laura is asking, I am curious, what about the transgenic seeds? They are not natural because the transgenic seeds are genetically modified.
I mean, if man touched it, you never know what those things are going to do. Think of the movie Jurassic Park. Right? They thought, "Ooh, we're going to make an amusement park because scientists can take that amber and
recreate."
Right? And then, whatever man touches, we are not smarter than billions of years of natural universe. The universe is incredibly smart. And those people who think the Earth doesn't have an awareness or a consciousness, that's like the people that used to think plants were alive because they didn't have eyes or ears, but right? Yeah.
But then you talk with your plant and the plants grow so happy.
Right. But I mean, look at my plants that are watered with Shungite.
With Shungite, that you gave me an
water.
idea. I have to put Shungite on my plants.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the water's wonderful for them. Absolutely. So.
All right. I think we're going to wrap now. We did a lot. It's thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Amazed. I learned lots of different things, and I hope everybody enjoyed too. I am pretty sure people are enjoying this because it's amazing.
Hope so.
Thank you so much, and let's do this again.
Yeah, sounds good.
I'm gonna watch your videos about the CIA project there. I'm really interested on that.
Yeah, they're very, very interesting. One of the most profound documents in the world ever released was that one, 29 pages of incredible information. So
I put the link of your website down below, and I think I'm gonna include your channel too.
Oh, good. Okay.
So if people want to contact you, and do you want to say something to close the night?
No.
All right. So thank you again. Thank you, everybody. And subscribe, click like, share, whatever.
Exactly. All right. Well, thanks for asking me to come on. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for accepting.
Okay.
So, see you again from our hearts and energy and from love.
Thank you. Okay.
And this stream here.
Okay.
There. We're not live anymore.
Right.